ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Ravens, Chiefs. Wow. Sunday Night Football owed us a dandy. Everybody else had already blessed us. Thursday night has blessed us twice. In week 1 with the Bucs and Cowboys, and week 2 with Washington and the Giants. Monday night had already blessed us with the Ravens and the same Ravens that we saw tonight, and the Raiders, who all of a sudden looked like they could be trouble this year. And Sunday night was lacking. That was the only dud. I've said this already. I'm going to repeat it again. Home teams are now 5-0. They're undefeated on primetime television as the Baltimore Ravens get a much-needed victory. The first time Lamar has been able to slay the dragon known as the Kansas City Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes, previously winless against the Chiefs, was Lamar Jackson. This was a massive victory for the Ravens because, look, I don't think their division is going to be as good as everybody thinks. Still, you don't want to fall down 0-2. We don't know how good the AFC conference as a whole is going to be, but things are shaping up to be a dandy out there and really a doozy, especially when you look at the AFC West and you start to look at some of these other divisions. Some teams may be a little bit better than we thought going into the season. Some may be a little worse. We'll see, but it's early. You don't want to fall down 0-2. And it was funny. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine before this game, and he said, yeah, the Ravens are going to get exposed tonight. They're going to get run. And I'm like, nah, that's not happening. I've talked about the depth of this team, and it's been tested. They talked about it several times. Ravens, 15 guys on IR. Chiefs only have 1. But I said, that's when you're going to find out the championship medal that this Ravens team has and organization overall has, because they're built for this. One of the few teams in the league that can withstand the amount of injuries that they've had and still be uber competitive. But this is also a great example of what an MVP caliber quarterback can do for you. There's been a lot of Lamar bashers and haters out there, but there aren't any other guys in the league that can do what Lamar Jackson does. Okay. And he can still throw it. And I know a lot of people feel like until he matures as a passer, there's a limitation as to how far this Ravens team can go. I beg to differ. I think he's going to continue to grow as a passer, and you're seeing that. I mean, he made some amazing plays tonight. That throw to Hollywood for the touchdown where he literally left his feet twisted in the air and threw the football about 25 yards in the air. Ridiculous for the touchdown. Lamar Jackson was phenomenal tonight. They don't win the game without him. They're not in the game without him. But I'll take it a step further. This game was on the verge of being a blowout. Chiefs are up 2 scores. The Ravens are on the ropes. And I thought, everyone's going to talk about the fumble by Clyde Edwards-Helaire, rightfully so. You don't have that fumble. More likely than not, they're going to burn the clock. I would have been sitting here talking about how the Ravens can't do the thing that they did, which is burn second half timeouts, because they are precious jewels. I talk about that all the time. Second half timeout, you do whatever the hell you want with your first half timeouts. You cannot waste second half timeouts, and you are about to see exactly why had Clyde Edwards-Helaire not fumbled the football. That said, yeah, that fumble, very costly, probably going to probably going to lead to a Chiefs win if that fumble doesn't take place, because they're going to move it right down in field goal range comfortably for Harrison Butker, who's going to bang home the field goal. They probably win this game 38-36, more likely than not. Who's to say what happens? But I thought this game turned when Mahomes decided he wanted to play Superman while in the grasp of a Ravens defender, throws the ball up for grabs, it gets picked off, and the Ravens were dead in the water. If they just punt the football there, they're pretty much at midfield. They're going to pin the Ravens back deep in their own territory, and they're going to have to drive the length of the field to get back into this game. And instead, he cut the field in half for them. They get the touchdown, and all of a sudden, we got a ball game with about, call it 11 minutes left to go in the football game. We got a ball game now that looked like it was on the verge of turning into a blowout. So I put this on Mahomes. He tried to do too much there. Just eat the football, take the sack, you punt the football, and I think this Ravens team loses this ball game. But even with that said, they had an opportunity to win late, and they couldn't get it done. And I think you can look at it from a number of different ways. This Chiefs defense isn't good. We saw it last week. We see it again. I've been talking about this Chiefs team isn't as good as it's been in the past. And they've played some really good football teams to start in Cleveland and Baltimore, both who have rushing identities. And you see they struggle to stop the run. The Chiefs at one point were giving up, I think, over 7 yards a pop. I don't know if they ultimately finished the game because the Ravens had some runs for 1 or 2 down the stretch that didn't net them a ton of yards. So it might have brought that average down a bit. But they gave up well over 200 yards rushing tonight. And I get it. Lamar Jackson, he adds to, the element of the run. And it's so hard to defend the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson's uniqueness. That said, they gave it up on the ground last week to Chubb and company as well. This Chiefs defense isn't very good, but they're going to be able to outscore most teams. But you can't fall into the trap of thinking you're going to outscore everybody. You're not going to turn the football over. You're going to play clean ball. This is a massive win for the Ravens to get back to 500, to avoid falling to 0-2. When everybody was counting you out and expecting you to lose this game, you find a way. And it wasn't always pretty. Lamar had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 to start the game. It wasn't always pretty, but it was gritty. And most importantly, it was a dub. Walking wounded are the Ravens, but somehow they find a way to win. And I love what Harbaugh did at the end of the game. And I mean, what was he expecting Lamar to say? He goes out onto the field and he yells to Lamar, "Lamar, you want to go for it?" What the hell do you think Lamar's going to say? "Nah, Harbs, go ahead and punt it to Mahomes so we can lose this game 38-36. He's like, Lamar, you want to go for it? Lamar's like, hell yeah, I want to go for it. He said, go ahead. And of course, they were giving it to Lamar. He asked Lamar, did he want to go for it? Because he's like, hey, we giving you the rock. And Lamar, of course, delivered for him, picking up the yard and allowing them to ice the clock. What a game. What a statement by the Ravens. And all this game does for me, I don't feel any less about the Chiefs. They're going to be a hell of a football team. They're going to win 13, 14 games this year. Only thing that this game ensures is that no team will go undefeated this year. That's all. And the Chiefs weren't going to go undefeated because I don't think they're defensively strong enough to do so. But all this game ensures is that we won't get into week 12 and there'll be an undefeated team. Okay, that's what this game ensures, is that the Chiefs won't be 11-0. They won't be one of these teams threatening. Nobody will threaten the 72 Dolphins this year. That's what this game ensures for me. Okay. Other than that, I still think the Chiefs are the most dangerous AFC team. I think the Ravens announced that we're not dead. Everybody wants to put dirt on top of us and drop flowers on top of us as if we're dead. We're much alive. They stuck their hand through the dirt just to let everybody know we're not dead, man. Don't feel sorry for us. We'll find a way. And I've told you guys, I can't bring myself to count the Ravens out because this is the kind of football team that they are. And with Lamar Jackson out there, as long as number 8 is under center, they've got a chance to win every single game that they play in because they are so hard to defend and they've got weapons on offense. And if Sammy Watkins is stay healthy, and we know that's probably not going to happen, but you got to hope he stays healthy. They'll get some reinforcements. Eventually, they'll get Rashad Bateman. Okay, eventually they'll get Miles Boykin back. And this thing can continue to grow offensively. They are going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous. And I think they're going to be around come, January when it's all said and done. A lot of people were ready to bury them after that week 1 loss. Oh, they're going to play the Chiefs in week 2. They're going to lose that game too. Now they're 0-2. The Steelers don't look all that hot. I don't think the Browns are as good as people want to make them out to be. I'm looking at that division. I'm saying, you sure they're not going to win the AFC North? You sure this Ravens team isn't going to still win this division? That's a hell of a win. Just in case you forgot that the Ravens are one of the deepest teams in the league. They go out and they get a couple of veteran backs to come stabilize that position. Tyson Williams continues to run the football effectively. They're not the same defensive team with all the injuries, obviously, but they're good enough with Lamar Jackson and this team's ability to run the football and the weapons they have in Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown and Samuel Watkins, with all of the different guys that they can throw at you, in addition to Lamar Jackson and his speed. This is a dangerous offense. And defensively, I'm going to tell you, Jason Oweh, man, or Odafe Oweh. His mama named him Odafe. I'm going to call him Odafe. That was a guy that I was intrigued with when he was at Penn State. Very raw. I told you guys he reminded me so much of Danielle Hunter coming out of LSU. Big, raw, athletic, but not a ton of production. But you're going off the upside. And I said, if this kid turns out to be what I think he's capable of being, he could be a problem. He landed on the perfect team. I thought the Buffalo Bills should have taken Odafe Oweh. I thought that they should have been the team to take a risk on this kid because it was a high risk, high risk, high reward proposition, but you didn't know what you were going to get. They're reaping the benefits. He's really good. And that punch out, that's a 10 out of 10 play right there. On a scale of 1 to 10, for him to beat the blocker, get the punch, and then the recovery, that's a 10 out of 10. For a rookie that was raw, that we weren't supposed to be seeing this kind of production from early in his career, he's making plays, made plays against the Raiders a week ago, making plays tonight. And that arguably was the play of the game for the Ravens defensively tonight. So Jason Oweh or Odafe Oweh. So big win for the Ravens. Tough loss if you're the Chiefs, but you'll be fine. Okay, you'll be fine. The only thing that sucks is that your division is hyper competitive with the Broncos being 2-0, with the Raiders being 2-0, and the Chargers 1-1. You now look up and two teams are ahead of you. Again, you got a long season. You get to play all of these teams. You're going to end up settling this thing by beating the teams in the division and taking care of business that way. Tough loss, but this is one of those games that we get every year on primetime television. Sign me up for Ravens, Chiefs every single year. How about we get one of these in Kansas City? It seems like all of these games are being played in Baltimore. At least the last two were. This was so much fun. And again, it's not Mike Jack, but NFL and primetime television ordering up another thriller. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say about what took place tonight, man. This was another outstanding primetime game. We got a super chat here from Sammer LD. My guy Sammer LD writes, first of all, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, takeaways from a Ravens fan. Refs sucked. Harbaugh, balls of steel. Both defenses can't stop a nosebleed. Oweh is a dog. Okay. Injuries can't stop us. 1-1, baby. That summed it up. Neither one of these defenses could stop each other. It really felt like last team with the football is going to win, and that's literally what happened. Had you not gotten the Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble, it was going to be the Chiefs being the last team with the ball, and they were going to win the football game. But because they fumbled, the Ravens got the football, and they were the last team with the ball, and they ultimately won the football game. I knew Harbaugh wasn't going. I remember the very first time they played Mahomes, and they lost. And the second time they came back around and played them, they started going for everything. 2-point conversions, fourth downs, everything. They were like, look, we're not going to beat these guys by punting the football and playing conservatively. We got to go for everything. And so I knew what Harbaugh saw was third. And how big of a completion was that? It's short of the sticks. You're like, why didn't they run that past stick? You just want to put yourself in a position where we could go for it. And that's what they ultimately did. There was no way Harbaugh was going to punt that football because he knew. With over a minute, even though he didn't have any timeouts, you really think that defense was going to stop Mahomes from getting them into field goal range? Are you kidding me? There was no way Harbaugh was going to. Either go for it and fail or go for it and win. But either way, punting wasn't an option because whether you give it to them at midfield or you punt it to them and they got to go, 50 yards to get in the field goal range, they were going to do it either way. So why not just go for it and see if you can't end the game? And that's what Harbaugh did. Oweh, talked about him already. Man, he's a dog. You're not lying there. And injuries, I said this, if there was one team in the league that could absorb and endure all the injuries, it was the Baltimore Ravens. They have a program. They have drafted well to put themselves in a position to have the depth to be able to withstand the type of injuries that they have. And I've talked about this, and you're seeing it come to fruition. Thank you for the super chat, Sammer LD. Got another super chat. This one is from Alerts of Orthanic. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, Titanic career win for Lamar. Heroic and important. It was big. This was a monkey that was on his back. Did you see how excited they were? They hadn't even won the game yet. Did you see how excited Lamar and Samuel Watkins were when they forced the fumble and recovered? It's as if the Chiefs had no more timeouts and they could take knees. Like, The game's not over yet, but they were that elated that they were going to have a chance to win. Lamar was desperate for this win. He's checking off a bunch of things on the bucket list. Haven't won a playoff game. Check that off the bucket list last year. Haven't beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Check that off the bucket list. So he's taking these barriers down that people have put in front of him one by one. This is a big one. There's no way around it because in everybody's mind, if you want to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC, you got to go through Mahomes and the Chiefs. And in order to get over that mental hurdle of can we beat them, you need to beat them. And they did that tonight. And ultimately, I don't think the Ravens are going to be good enough to be able to say, hey, this win could ultimately decide who gets home field advantage throughout. When it's all said and done, I don't think the Ravens are going to be in that position where they're 13-4, 14-3, where I think the Chiefs ultimately are going to end up. But we'll see. It could come down to a situation where head-to-head, Ravens beat them. Now they get to play this game, in January at home instead of having to go to Arrowhead. So, we'll see. That, as you mentioned, this was a very important win for Lamar Jackson. Really for the Ravens' psyche as well, but Lamar more importantly because this team only goes as far as Lamar Jackson takes them. And he needed to be able to say, I know I can beat them. I know we can beat them. And that's what this win did tonight. This was huge for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Lurks of Orthanic. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor, writes, Sunday Night Football. Wow. Wow, indeed. And Jameis being Jameis, Tyrod being Tyrod. We talked about this. None of this should surprise any of you. And we've talked about this. And I told you what was going to happen because this is what happens, okay? There's certain things death, taxes, and Tyrod Taylor getting injured, death, taxes, and Jameis Winston being Jameis Winston. And you're going to get Saints fans blaming it on 8 coaches being out due to COVID, this, that, and the third. That's fine. It's Jameis Winston. It's too late in the game for this guy to change who he is. He is who he is. Sunday Night Football. Wow, indeed. Metaphor. Masterio McManos. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, my Ravens finally got one. And indeed they did in a big one. To think about what the prospects were, just think about how we all felt about the Ravens, especially if you're a fan of the Ravens. Just think about how you felt about this Ravens football team after losing to the Raiders on Monday night and looking at the prospects of, damn, quick turnaround, Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. Damn, we probably 0-2. That's what you're thinking because you haven't beat them before. They got your number, and you're thinking defensively, we can't stop them. And now look, the whole outlook on the season changes with one win. It's amazing because there's people don't want to admit this, massive difference between 0-2 and 1-1, despite it only being one game. Massive difference. Ask Washington, ask the Giants, ask the Ravens, ask the Chiefs. Massive difference between 1-1, 0-2, and 2-0, really, if you want to ask the Chiefs. But really, 0-2 and 1-1. Changes the whole way you feel about your team. Ravens are 0-2 today, even though you look at the division and say, we're probably fine. You might not be fine. Now you don't have to worry about that, though. Big win. Big win. Ryan Friesen. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Ryan, who writes, Chiefs are a horribly ran defensive team. This bunch of peons will never get them to the AFC Championship. Way to go, Ravens. Hope you make it. The Chiefs are what they are. There's no way to, circumvent the issues they have defensively. I don't think they have great pass rushers other than Chris Jones. I'm not a massive Frank Clark guy. You guys know that. So I think they lack the ability to get true pressure off the edge. And, at the end of the day, they are what they are defensively because there's only so much you can do with the defensive talent that they have because they have money, but they have to spend it on the offensive side of the football. They just spent a ton of money refurbishing the offensive line. They had to spend a bunch of money on Mahomes, which you have to do. They spent a bunch of money on Travis Kelce, which you have to do. And they spent a bunch of money on Tyreek Hill, which you have to do. So offensively, that's where all of their money is going. And then you pay Chris Jones, which is why they don't want to pay Tyrann Mathieu at this current juncture, because they don't have any money really to spend on that defense. So you got to get a bunch of retreads at the cornerback position. You know, Mike Hughes is a cast-off as a former first-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings. They got the former Giants first-round pick Baker as a cast-off. Don't even know if he's on the field for them right now. I mean, Nick Sorensen, bless his heart, he makes plays, but he's Nick Sorensen at the end of the day. I think he does some really good things for them, but he's Nick Sorensen, all right? And then Tyrann Mathieu makes up for a lot of the deficiencies they have in that secondary, but at the end of the day, there aren't a ton of playmakers on that defense. Outside of Mathieu and Chris Jones, it's a bunch of guys, and I really like your rookie out of Missouri at the linebacker position, Nick Bolton. I think he'll be a player for you, but I don't think they have a lot of needle movers in the secondary other than Tyrann Mathieu. And so it is what it is. It's a collection of guys that you hope do enough to get you through, with the offense being the catalyst. And so I don't want to criticize them too heavily, because they played two really well-coached ball clubs that can run it down your throat in the first 2 weeks. And the results haven't been great. Let's see what happens when they play lesser teams. If lesser teams are finding it easy to move the ball and put up points, then the Chiefs are going to find it tough to sustain this all season long, because you almost have to play perfect football when your offense is as dynamic as it is, but you're getting into shootouts with teams. That means you can't afford turnovers, or you can't afford mistakes late in the ball game, because you're giving up 35. You're giving up 31. And again, you got Mahomes and company. They can score 40. So you feel comfortable knowing if we get into a shootout, our guys are better than yours. But you're not going to always win these things, especially with the way they play defense. So it's good. They're going to get to the AFC Championship if they're healthy offensively, because they got the better, the best offense in football with the best quarterback pulling the strings. They just can't have the mistakes. And usually they don't make mistakes. But they made mistakes tonight. Mahomes with a big interception thrown. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire that fumble was arguably the difference in the game. I mean, who are we kidding, right? Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Double up. My guy Metaphor writes, Reed just announced retirement. Yeah, right. Mr. September, no more. Mahomes threw his first pick in the month of September. If you saw those numbers, they're cartoonish. Hadn't lost a ball game in September, hadn't thrown a pick. He was like 38 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now that's done in terms of his no interception streak. He's still 38-1 touchdown to interception ratio in the month of September. He'll be fine. Trust me. Monster win by the Ravens, however. DT Vids, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DT Vids writes, Raven Nation, baby. Been following you for 5 years. Favorite YouTube channel. Thank you for that, DT Vids. Really appreciate you. Big win for the Baltimore Ravens. These are the types of wins that define a season. If the Ravens go on to do big things this year, this will be, and it's early, but this will be a turning point for them. This is a rallying cry for them, because in my mind, I said I was anticipating them losing this game. I'm not going to sit here and act as if I wasn't. I was anticipating a loss, but I said at some point the Ravens are going to get a patch of their schedule that they're going to just run through, win 5 or 6 in a row, 7 out of 8, something like that. And then we're going to look up and the Ravens are going to be right there in the mix with some of the best teams in the AFC. They don't have to do that now after winning this game, but I think they're still going to do that. Like, this game might thrust them into a 6-game win streak. I don't know who's on the schedule, and frankly, I don't care, because I don't think they're going to play many teams that are better than the one they just beat tonight. So they're thinking in their minds, if we can beat the Chiefs, we should be able to beat anybody on the schedule. And that's the kind of confidence you gain from a victory like this. And that's why this is such a big win for the Ravens. It's a mental hurdle that they've just finally cleared. And now in their minds, they're saying, who can beat us? We just beat the team that's been in the Super Bowl, representing the AFC the last 2 seasons. We just slayed the dragon. We should be able to beat anybody. We'll see if they're able to do that or not. But that's a massive win for the Ravens, for sure. Thank you for the super chat. DT Vids, greatly appreciate you. Got another super chat here. This one is from Silver V. My guy, Silver Villains, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, oh my God, never thought Reed had to find out the number one rule. Keep the ball in Mahomes' hands in crucial situations. We'll come back to that. That's a great point. Hats off to Lamar and Clyde Edwards. Welcome to the doghouse. Shaking my damn head. Go sit next to our defensive coordinator. So let's break that thing down right there, because there was a lot said there by Silver V, and a lot of it pretty accurate. Look, you should be able to hand the football off to your running back, especially when you're looking to burn clock, as the Chiefs were late in the ball game. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, let's not act as if this guy has a fumbling problem. I don't know if he's fumbled in his NFL career yet. That might have been his first fumble. I don't know that to be sure. Can't confirm nor deny that, but he's not a guy that fumbles very often. Still, as you just mentioned, at that juncture of the game, I just trust Patrick Mahomes to make decisions that are going to help the team win. I'd much rather put it in his hands. And just, even if it's a short pass, he rolls out, hits Travis Kelce on a 3-yard speed cut, and you keep it pushing. But look, I don't blame Andy Reid for handing the ball off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was supposed to be a harmless handoff to burn clock, force the Ravens to call their final timeout, whatever the case may be. And he fumbled. I mean, Reid didn't expect that to happen. The guy, I don't think, has fumbled all season long. And I don't know if he fumbled last year either. So that was something that, was unexpected. But to your point, you get into those situations, I'd much rather just let Mahomes spread them out. And I don't care if it's a stop route to Pringle. I'd rather just let Patrick Mahomes be the maestro that he is and distribute the football and just keep it in his hands. And maybe that's something that they'll go back to, later on in the season when they get in another spot like this. Maybe that's what they'll decide and elect to do. But I mean, you got to be able to trust that your running back is going to protect the football in that situation. So I don't think they're going to be able to go away from Clyde Edwards-Helaire in that situation. He's got to hold on to the football. And this will be a teaching tool, a lesson learned by him, that in these situations, you got to protect the Duke. And I just don't think he expected Odafe Oweh to get his hands on the football. He wasn't even looking that way. He didn't think that guy was going to be able to reach his long paws in there and stick his hand in the cookie jar and come away with the cookies. Yum, yum, eat them up. Yum, yum, eat them up. But that's exactly what he did. So big time miss there. And you said he's in the doghouse. I think he's not in the doghouse, but that's a bitter pill to swallow. Nobody feels more sick about this loss than Edwards-Helaire. Trust me on that. And, as far as the defensive coordinator, look, man, you got to be careful with what you are doing. Like, I don't know if you're going to get much better than Steve Spagnuolo. And I get it. For years you had a terrible defensive coordinator. I forgot his name. I always see his face with the damn glasses. And he was terrible and he needed to go. And you bring in Spags and the defense gets better and you win a Super Bowl. And now all of a sudden the defense is regressing because you just don't have a ton of talent. And it is what it is. And I don't know if you're going to be able to find someone that's going to take this defense and squeeze anything more out of it than Spags is trying to squeeze out of it. I mean, let's keep it a buck. You are what you are defensively because you don't have a ton of studs. You got a couple of guys that are needle movers back there, but this is not an overly talented Chiefs defense. So I don't really know what you want Steve Spagnuolo to do. I mean, honestly, I'm keeping it a buck with you. I don't really know what you guys are expecting, but don't be like the Green Bay Packers. Bob Sutton is his name. Now it just came to me. It was the ex-Chiefs defensive coordinator. Don't be like the Packers. Get rid of a coordinator. And I'm not sitting here telling you Mike Patton was the greatest thing since sliced bread as a defensive coordinator for the Packers, but they regressed as a team defensively by going out and hiring Joe Barry. Okay, the Packers are going to stink defensively this year. They just got worse as a defensive team by hiring Joe Barry. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. I just want to caution you on that. But, man, big loss there. And I agree with you. In those situations, I probably just keep it in 15's hands, but yeah, you should be able to hand it to your back and not and expect him to hold on to it. Like, can't really blame Andy Reid for that, but I think that maybe that is a lesson learned, something that he'll file away for later. Like, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just keep it in the hands of 15, man, and maybe that's something that we'll see moving forward. But anyway, big time win for the Ravens. Tough loss, bitter pill to swallow for the Chiefs. Thank you for the super chat, Silver V. Got another one here from John Livingston. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JL Smooth writes, what up, Lou? What up, John? Great Sunday night football game. But here we go. Washington football team versus Buffalo. The Ralph will be crazy. Yes, I still call it Ralph. Respect to Ralph Wilson Jr. It's going to be crazy, but we'll see. I watched that game today, 35-0. It was sloppy. It was a slop fest on both ends. I was feeling good after the first half, not so good after the second half when you dominated the Dolphins 6 ways to Sunday. So we'll see. I can tell you this. I'm less afraid of the Bills this week than I was last week because I saw a lot of mistakes by that Bills team, but I don't know if we're the team to take advantage of them or not. But we got all week to talk about that. That is for sure. Thank you for the super chat, JL Smooth. My guy, John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, wow, Lou, what a great game. Indeed, it was. He says, Lamar finally beats Mahomes, but there goes my bid for KC to go 20-0. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire can't fumble in that situation. He can't. And he knows that. And again, he wasn't expecting Odafe Oweh to be able to stretch those go-go gadget arms and get his hands on the football. Like, he wasn't even concerned with the backside defender impacting that play. So that just goes to show you the length of an Odafe Oweh. I mean, he's just such a long defender, pause. And so you saw that on that play because I still don't know how he was able to reach in there and punch that thing away. And to do it with the other arm. It wasn't the arm closest to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It was the arm that was furthest away from him, which makes it even that more special of a play. And then to have the presence of mind to then regroup and go and recover the fumble that you forced. Just an amazing individual effort there by Oweh. But I told you that's the only thing that changed in this game for me on the Chiefs end of things is that now they can't go undefeated. And to me, they would have been the only team in the league that could seriously contend for an undefeated regular season. So the Miami Dolphins, they can go ahead and pop the champagne. The 72 Dolphins can go ahead and pop the champagne right now. Nobody else in the league is capable of going undefeated this season. So that's the only thing that changed for me. And I don't think the Chiefs were going to do it anyway, but it's out of the way now. They're now 1-1. So big win for the Ravens once again. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Dexter Eaton L's together. Washington football team in Baltimore. Take it. Look, I'm loving it. And I want more of it. More dubs for the home team, for the good guys, more L's for the bad guys. So we'll take them any way we can get them. And for the Chiefs, they won't feel this many more times this season. Maybe 2 or 3 more times max, more likely than not. Again, if they're relatively healthy on the offensive side of football, they won't experience this feeling in the regular season many more times. So this isn't something you should get used to. But I think that's the one thing that's evident with the Chiefs. And I told my buddy, before the game, they're not good defensively. And so we're back to where they were, I think, back in, I want to say 18 with Sutton as the defensive coordinator. They're kind of back to that, point now where this defense, they just don't have it. They don't have, the corners. They don't have dynamic linebacker play. And sometimes you look at certain guys and you feel like they're replaceable, so you move on from them. But sometimes you feel the sting of some of those guys not being around, and you look at maybe a Bashaud Breeland, think he's expendable, not really all that great. Okay, fine. And he's not a tremendous corner, but you start hacking away at some of the guys you had. Kendall Fuller again, defensive chess piece. Was he great at one position for you? No. But could you move this guy around outside, inside, safety? Yeah, you could do that. And so you start hacking away at some of the guys that you had on this team, and they may not have been great, but you put them together collectively. They weren't great individually, but you put them together collectively and you get something. All of a sudden, Wilson at linebacker, you take him away. Is he a great linebacker? No, but he was good for you. You start hacking away at that, and all of a sudden, this defense isn't as good, and you think these guys are replaceable. And I'm telling you, you keep bringing in new guys, you keep changing it over, and it takes a while for these new guys to come in and gel with the guys that are already there. And so I think Nick Bolton's going to be really good for you, but there's just not a ton of defensive talent for the Chiefs. And I think ultimately that's what's going to really put them in positions like this to have to outscore teams on a consistent basis, which they're fully capable of doing. And they would have done it tonight without the turnovers. I think that Mahomes' turnover was the turning point in this game. I think at that point, they might have been up by 10 in the game. And I think they had the Chiefs on the ropes, on the verge of putting those boys to sleep night. I think they were up by 11. I think it was 35-21 at that point. And they had them right where they wanted them. And Mahomes just tried to do too much. And that's what you see with these quarterbacks that just have the ability to extend, and make plays, is that sometimes they don't know when to say when. And that's usually not something Mahomes struggles with, which is why he didn't have a ton of interceptions on a yearly basis. But that one was one I bet you he wishes he had back. That was a really poor decision on the part of Patrick Mahomes, and it really ultimately did cost them. So thank you for the super chat. Metaphor greatly. Appreciate you. So let's go to the comment section and get a couple of hashtags and see. Remember, if you're out there, want your comment to be read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. You want to jump straight to the front of the line. Super chats are the way to get that done. So, let's get this thing going. So Atlas writes, this game doesn't really change my opinion on these teams, but it felt good to watch Mahomes finally get punished for his hero ball antics. Dude has the devil's luck. Yeah, I think it does change my perception of the Ravens ever so slightly, because I told you the Ravens were going to be a good team despite all the injuries. They're one of the few teams in the league that are built to be able to withstand the injuries that they have, because they build their roster and their organization the right way, and they continue to stack depth on top of one another. And so they continue to get players that are carbon copies of the guys that do it on the front line. So the backups are really ready to step in, and they just draft the right way. They sign guys in free agency that help them, that fit the Ravens mold. And so when they get injuries, the next guy is capable of stepping in, and enough. There's not that significant drop off that you see from a lot of teams around the league. That said, I didn't think they were capable of beating the Chiefs. So anytime they saw the Chiefs, that was going to be their kryptonite. That was going to be the team that was going to be able to stop them. Now you say, hey, they can do it. They've done it before. They can do it again. And so that does change my perception ever so slightly of them. Hey, they're fully capable of taking this thing all the way now, because they can finally say, we can beat them. And that was a mental hurdle, no longer there. They've cleared it. As for the Chiefs, as you said it, and I've said it already, and I totally agree with you, doesn't change my mind about the Chiefs one iota. Still think they're the best team in the AFC. Still think that all roads to the Super Bowl in the AFC go through Arrowhead and this Chiefs ball club when it's all said and done. And yeah, Mahomes was slapped on the wrist tonight with that interception. I really think that's one that he wishes he had back. And maybe, I saw two quarterbacks that are among the best in the league trying to do too much today, and they ultimately cost their team. Russell Wilson took a bad sack, a terrible sack in overtime that almost was a safety that cost his team and ultimately put him in a position to lose that ball game. And Mahomes I think that interception really changed the tenor of this football game. So I agree with you there, Atlas. Got one here from Storm, who writes, these primetime games this year have been something else. Who are you telling, man? I mean, just absolutely off the charts. They have not missed this year, essentially, on primetime television. We are now 4 of 5 on primetime, with the one dud being the Sunday night game last week. But both Thursday games, this Sunday game, and Monday's game last week was awesome. I think we're set up for a dud tomorrow night, but I've said that in the past, and we've had absolutely, edge of your seat thrillers that I thought were going to be terrible ball games. So it's family business. The Packers didn't get off to the hottest of starts, and the Lions, for as bad as I think they're going to be, they fought to the end last week. So we'll see what happens. I think they're going to get their doors blown off, and the Packers are going to bounce back. But maybe the Packers stink, and I told you, their defensive coordinator is trash. And Joe Barry, maybe the Lions go in there, score some points, and make that thing a shootout. And all of a sudden, we look up and we've got another whale of a ball game on our hands. But right now, I mean, NFL with fans back in the stands, primetime games have been fantastic. He says, every game, he said, the game of the year every week, it seems. Also, Raiders lead the AFC West after 2 weeks. Who would have thought? LOL. You're sharing that with the Broncos, but yeah, you're right. After looking at their schedule and saying, home for the Ravens, at Pittsburgh, nobody. And I don't care how big of a Raiders fan you are, nobody would have said, hey, the Raiders are going to be atop the AFC West after 2 weeks. And not sharing it with the Chiefs, I might add. I mean, who would have thought? I can't. I definitely didn't. That's for sure. Let's see. I see a lot of y'all complaining about the refs in this game. What were some of the calls that you thought were egregious? There were a couple of things that I thought, like the illegal contact on Tyrann Mathieu. That was trash. And I think they sacked Lamar on that play, and they were going to have to punt, and that gave them a first down. That, to me, was the most egregious call of the night. Outside of that, I mean, it's a big call, so it's hard to go outside of that. But outside of that, I don't really know if I recall too many other calls that I'm like, man, that was terrible. That one took the cake, and that was a big play in the game. So the refs definitely weren't at their best at that moment, but I don't know if they were terrible. Like, they decided the outcome of this game. I don't buy that whatsoever. Brandon Brantley, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, guys are getting out of hand with how good these peanut punches are becoming. You're not lying, man. I mean, golly, it's a taught method of going after the football now, and guys are literally practicing this and perfecting it to the point now where if you're a ball carrier, you've got to understand that guys are not only looking for the tackle now, they're looking to punch that football out. We saw DeMarcus Lawrence with a beautiful punch out against the Buccaneers on the first game of the season. And like you said, every game, I think you're seeing at least one fumble, it feels like, that is via a peanut punch. I mean, it's out of control. That's a great point, Brandon. This thing is becoming a perfected art. Guys are studying film on how to punch the football out. And if you're not focused on the 4 pressure point, of the football and holding it tight, that thing's coming out. You get that punch perfectly placed on a guy that's unsuspecting, that ball's coming out. And that's exactly what happened to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This is a perfect placed punch. Ball's on the carpet. And the Ravens are in business. So you're absolutely right, man. These punches, these peanut punches, are becoming ridiculously accurate. It used to be the bolo punch where you came from behind and you had to punch it out from behind. This peanut punch, this thing is ridiculous, man. Because you can be he wasn't even at the angle that you usually see a peanut punch executed from, and he got that thing out of there. So it doesn't matter where you land it from. If you hit it in the right spot, that thing's coming out. And boy, did it ever. Thank you for that comment, Brandon Brantley. Great point and observation there. Got another super chat. This one is from Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how about them Eagles? I mean, what did you expect? We won't be hearing from the Eagles fans this week. I guarantee you. They were all up in all of the different streams and chats asking, oh, would you still take all of your quarterbacks over our quarterback? And asking all. I said, look, man, it's one game. Come back to me after next week. And Jalen Hurts wasn't trash, but they only scored 11 points. Okay. They weren't good enough offensively in that football game. And so, yeah, how about those Eagles? And I think they're going to lose again against the Cowboys next week on, what is it, Sunday or Monday night? Well, it's on primetime. I think that's a Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken, because what did they tell us the Sunday night game was next week? I think it was, I don't know. I don't remember what I saw. I'm trying to think if I could just think of the home team in that game. I can't recall. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's Eagles and Cowboys. I think that's the Monday night game next week. Either way, I think Dallas is going to beat the Eagles in their home opener on Monday night. And the Eagles I think they're going to drop 2 straight. And then I think they have the Chiefs after that. They could easily lose 3 in a row. Like, I'm not worried about the Eagles. I'm more worried and concerned about the Cowboys. But again, you know how I feel. If we just take care of our business, I'm not really that concerned about any of the teams in the division, to be honest, keeping it a buck with you. But that's a big win. And I saw another comment by somebody in the comment section. I think the 2 biggest wins of week 2, I mean, if you're a Washington fan, our win was huge as well, but nobody expects much of Washington this year, to be honest. Of the teams that you feel like could really compete, maybe do some damage, the Titans, I didn't expect them. I can't say no one. I didn't expect them to lay the egg that they did in week 1, for them to bounce back on the road at Seattle, be down by, 2 scores at multiple times throughout that game, to battle back and win on the road in overtime. Big win for the Titans. And I think this Ravens team, you could argue, had the biggest win of week 2 right there, with the Titans coming in a close second. So some big wins by some of these teams for sure. Let's get back to the comment section and see where we left off. I think we are, I hit Brandon up, so we were here with my guy, John Perez. Thank you for the comment. John writes, wow, bruh, what a game. Lamar finally beats Mahomes. I think he super chatted that one, so we can keep it going. Reed says 10 wins in a row. First team in league history to have 9 consecutive wins, scoring 30 points in each. Best team in football. # Brady's Bucks. They're a good football team, really good. They're not going to go undefeated. That's why the Chiefs, to me, were the only team that would have had a legitimate shot of going undefeated. If you watch that game, the Falcons were right there in that game. They were down 3, and then they just imploded. They imploded, but they were right there in that ball game with them. And the biggest weakness I see with the Buccaneers is that if they can't get to the quarterback, you can move the football on their defense. And we saw that with Dallas. I saw it again today because I watched the Falcons offensive line get dominated by the Eagles the week prior, but I didn't see that same dominance in this game. And so the Falcons were able to move the football successfully. Cordero Patterson at one point was a one-man wrecking crew. And I said this before the season started, I'm not impressed with the Buccaneers defense. Much like I'm not impressed with the Chiefs defense, I'm not impressed with the Buccaneers defense. I think you can score and move the football on the Buccaneers. They're going to have to outscore you. And if they're capable of doing that, which we know they are, they're going to win a bunch of ball games. But unlike the Chiefs, and they got away with it in week 1. They turned it over 4 times, but Dallas couldn't put the ball in the end zone. That was the difference in that game. They settled for too many field goals. You go up against teams that can put it in the end zone, and you turn it over the way they did in week 1, And I think they had a turnover or two in this game. I'm not sure. I know they forced some punts. I mean, that offense went to sleep for a little while and allowed the Falcons to hang around. There were times where the Falcons looked like they were on the verge of getting blown out, and then they rallied back and made it a ball game. This Buccaneers team really good, but also I think they're going to suffer from some of the same things that the Chiefs suffer from, and that's the lack of defensive efficiency. I think they've got more studs on the defensive side of the football, but I think you can move it on them if they're not getting pressure up front. If they're hitting home and they're collapsing the pocket, you're in trouble. But if you can protect up front against the Bucs, you can move the football on that defense. But that's another win for them. I want to see them play somebody good, and not to say that the Cowboys aren't good. Okay, I want to see them play someone good, and so I can really get a feel and a gauge for what the Buccaneers are. But I can tell you this, Gronk, man, oh man, he is something else, man. I tell you. I got a super chat. We'll stop there at Asan Moore, but I got a super chat here from Niners fan. Thank you for the super chat. Niners fan, greatly appreciate you, who writes, Lou, Warner plus Bosa are the best at their positions. I don't think Bosa is the best at his position. I vehemently disagree with you. I won't say that he's not close, but he's not the best. There are other defensive ends in the league that are, I think, light years ahead of where Bosa is. He's so good though as an all-around football player. Now, the case can be made for Fred Warner being the best at his position as a middle linebacker. There aren't many better. Darius Leonard is in that discussion. I still think that Bobby Wagner is playing at an extremely high level. Those are the guys in that conversation. But Fred Warner is right there. He pissed me off today on that 2-point conversion because he's screaming out of there like a banshee out of hell. And I think he's got a chance to really blow up Gainwell, the running back for the Eagles, on that 2-point conversion, and somehow he allows him into the end zone. But Fred Warner's a beast, period, end of discussion. But I don't think Bosa is the best at his position. But Warner, you could definitely make the case for him being the best middle linebacker in football. Thank you for the super chat. Niners fan, greatly appreciate you. So let's get back up here to the comment section, and I think we left off at Asan Moore right here. And Asan writes, happy for Lamar to get his first W versus the Chiefs. No matter the injuries, the Ravens are still competitive, especially with Lamar at quarterback. Tyrann Mathieu is so good. Yes, he is. And this is why he wants to be paid. And he will get paid, whether it's by the Chiefs or some other team. They can't afford to not have him on this defense. You saw how impactful he was tonight. He had 2 interceptions, 1 to the crib, and almost had a third on that dangerous pass that Lamar had in the end zone, where I don't think he even saw Tyrann Mathieu coming from the backside of that play. So he's the field general for them. He does everything. He gets guys lined up. He takes away first and second reads. I mean, this guy is an animal on the field. He's a blitzer. He's a short tackler. He's a great one-on-one defender. He's great in coverage. He just does everything for them defensively. And I think they need one guy at the second level to really give them a chance defensively, because they got one at the back end. They got one on the D-line. Now they just need a linebacker, somebody that they can trust to step up there. And I think that guy could be Nick Bolton. And they may have something defensively that they can hang their hat on and then try to build off of that. But he's got to be on their team. But right now, they're being stingy with the bread. And I get it. They don't have it right now. They better figure it out, though, because you take him off of this defense and they really don't stand a chance. So the Ravens' depth, you're seeing it. You're seeing why they're a Super Bowl caliber team and organization. Really, this is an organizational win that you're seeing. And really, this season for the Ravens is going to be a testament to how they built their organization and built the roster. And this is why we talk about the Ravens being one of the best run organizations in all of football. And you're seeing it right now. You know, how many teams would have crumbled under the amount of injuries that they've had and use that as an excuse to go 6-11 this year? That's not going to be the fate of the Ravens. And again, it also helps when you've got a quarterback like Lamar Jackson under center. It changes everything for sure. So that definitely helps them as well. Got another super chat. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Metaphor writes, Bucs week 10 game aims to be their biggest challenge. I think we're week 10, so that is not going to be their biggest challenge of the season. I can assure you of that. They will have many other opponents that will give them a test. They won the division. No, they didn't. They came in second in the division. I think the Saints won the division last year, so they may avoid some teams, but they got the Rams. I think they play the Rams in 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. It might be next week. I think it's in 2 weeks. They play the Rams. And that's the Sunday night game. 49ers hosting the Packers. So, yeah, the Cowboys game is going to be Monday night against the Eagles because it's 49ers and Packers. Now, I was trying to play it in my mind. What did I see? So, that'll be a good game. We'll see. When they play the Rams, that'll be a great game. I saw some deficiencies in the Rams. They got it done. But I saw some deficiencies with them in that ball game against the Colts. Very losable game for them, but they pulled it out. And that's what the good teams do. They find a way to win. It's not always going to be pretty and dominant like you want it to be. Got to find a way to win. That's what the good teams in the league do. And they're 2-0. Bucs are 2-0. They're two of the best teams. I think they are the two best teams in the NFC conference. And we could be seeing a preview of the NFC championship game. It'll be a big game because the winner of that game may ultimately be the team representing, home field advantage in the NFC, and you may have to go through that team's home, field to get to the Super Bowl. So that could be a big game. Both of those teams could end up, 13-4, 14-3 this year, and the head-to-head matchup may be the difference between being the 1 seed or the 2 seed. So that'll be a big game in a couple of weeks. Week 10 is definitely not the Buccaneers' biggest test this season for sure. But we are about to hit that hour mark. So I'll take a couple of more comments and then we'll get out of here. Let's see where we left off. I think we left off at Asan Moore. So we'll get Gregory Lightbody. Try to get to another comment from this game. Reed talks about their test next week, and I talked about the Rams. I didn't know it was a week 3 game. Let's see if we can get to another comment here from Reed. The Ravens could not lose this game. If they did, things could have gotten bad. Earliest must win of this season for any team. I think they could have gotten past 0-2. 0-2 is tough. It's not impossible. And you look at their division, the Steelers aren't great. The Bengals aren't great. They would have gotten some wins inside the division. They would have gotten some teams on the schedule that they would have been able to handle. And they would have, righted the ship had they lost this game. I had confidence in their ability to do that, but it's just a totally different perspective when you're 1-1 versus 0-2. Again, I can't begin to explain the difference. Even though it's one game, it doesn't feel like one game when you look at it from that 0-2 prism. You're like, man. And they show you the numbers every year, the difference between a 1-1 team and an 0-2 team making the postseason. And there's a significant difference between the two. I wonder if that number will change now that there's 17 games. Excuse me. So there's an extra game in the season for you to overcome that 0-2 hole. But when you start 0-2 and you play in a tough division, and I do think the Ravens division is tough, but maybe not as tough. I don't think Pittsburgh is all that great. Maybe not as tough as we thought. But still a division that's going to be, tough. You don't want to fall down 0-2. You don't want to put yourself in that hole. And this was a big win, and they got it. I agree with you, Reed. You didn't want to fall to 0-2. You really did not want to do that. Let's see. We'll take one more comment, and then we'll get out of here. See if we can find one more hashtag. Rich says, this was a good one. Glad there's no undefeated team. But side note, are the Raiders good? No, not good, Luke. Good. No, I don't. Me and my dad were having this conversation today about the Raiders. He's like, man, I'm looking at them totally different. And I'm like, I'm starting to feel that way too, even though they're capable of this. We saw flashes of this last year. They can outscore you. I talked about this already. They're capable. What I've been impressed with has been their defense this year. And maybe the Steelers aren't good on offense. I'm starting to really look at the Steelers like, I think you stink on offense, and I think Ben's old, and I think that we're starting to see the beginning of the end of Ben Roethlisberger's career. Like, he looks old. He can't move. That offense looks really stagnant. I thought maybe that was just Buffalo week 1. No, I'm starting to think that's who they are offensively. They're not good on offense, but that's the second week in a row I've walked away somewhat impressed by the Raiders defense. I knew they could score offensively. They got weapons on offense. I've already talked about that. And I think that people underrate what Derek Carr is capable of. And I went on a rant last week after that game. So you know how I feel about Derek Carr, but I'm not surprised by what they're doing offensively. I knew they were capable. I talked about Derek Carr and this Raiders offense going toe-to-toe with Mahomes in Arrowhead and coming out victorious 40-32 last year. They're capable of outscoring teams. They were terrible defensively. I'm impressed with them thus far with what they've been able to do defensively. And I said Gus Bradley was going to come in there and help that defense, just like I'm looking at Dallas. And I said, look, you can sit there and shit on Dallas's defense. They're this, they're that. And I said, they got talent on defense, and watch what Dan Quinn does for that defense. And all of a sudden, I'm not saying that the Cowboys defense is great, because I still think they're, have some deficiencies defensively and you can move the football on them, but they're not getting gouged like they were last year. And the same thing can be said for the Raiders. So I do see some stark differences between what the Raiders were defensively last year and what they've been early in this season. Now, still a long way to go, and they've got to be consistent with this, but it's an impressive start. But no, I don't think they're an elite team by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm looking at the Raiders very differently after their 2-0 start. And I'm also looking at the Steelers a lot differently after this game as well, because I just don't think they're all that great offensively, but we will see. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. What a game. What a win by the Baltimore Ravens, 36-35 over the Kansas City Chiefs. We're hot right now on primetime television. We're 4 for 5 right now, knocking them out of the park left and right. We'll see if we can follow this dandy up with another gem on Monday night with the Packers and Lions. We'll see how that one goes. But what a win for the Ravens. What a win for Lamar Jackson. What a win for John Harbaugh. Like, this was something that they needed to get done. This was a big obstacle and hurdle in their way. And maybe this gives them the confidence to maybe not only make the postseason, but make it all the way to the AFC Championship game. We'll see. It's a big win. Early in the season, I may add, but this is a big confidence-boosting win if you're the Baltimore Ravens. They get it done. And again, I can't begin to explain to you the difference between 0-2 and 1-1, but the Ravens avoided 0-2, and I guarantee you they feel like a brand new football team after getting it done tonight. This doesn't change the way I feel about the Chiefs at all. Still think they're the best team in the AFC, and all roads to the Super Bowl go through Kansas City, but that defense is definitely leaky, and I think that's something they're going to have to deal with for the vast majority of this season. But to defend the Chiefs defensively, they did go up against two of the more physical, grinded out football teams with the ability to go play action fake and push the football down the field based off of that run game. We'll see how they fare against teams that aren't as prolific at running the football and teams that have to spread you out and maybe throw it. See if they fare better in those types of situations where Chris Jones can be more of an impact player. But in any event, Chiefs get their first loss of the season. Ravens get their first win of the season in what was one hell of a football game. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again, to wrap up week 2 with Monday Night Football Overtime. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. telling you to get off the bench and get in the game and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.